Welcome back, YouTube. Today we're going to talk about macronutrients and the benefits of macronutrients itself. I know you've heard this word plenty of times, macros, and some people are like, what are macros? How do you count them? How do they benefit the body? And I'm going to speak about how beneficial they were for me and how I was able to reach my fitness goal by following my specific macronutrients. I'm going to help you to understand what that is today and how to find your specific macronutrients for your body type. So stay tuned. Trying not to bore you with the breakdown of the macronutrients itself, but it's important for you to understand this information in order for you to understand what macronutrients are. Because macronutrients, for the most part, make up your caloric intake. Macronutrients, you might have heard the abbreviated word of macronutrients, which are macros. Macros are the breakdown of your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates, and this is what makes up your caloric intake. Each of these categories require a certain amount of calories per gram. For example, for protein, you have 4 calories per gram, carbohydrates, 4 calories per gram, and fats, it's 9 calories per gram. To give you clarification on what calories per gram means as far as the protein, carbs, and fats, when you're purchasing items and you read the back of the nutritional label and it says 24 grams of carbohydrates, that is multiplied by 4 to give you the total amount of calories that you're consuming of carbohydrates in that package. When I was able to follow each of these macronutrients, I was able to effectively reach my fitness goal. For the most part, I did a video recording what type of body type I am. I am meso-endomorph, and for those of you who don't know what body types are, please look that up. There's a difference between mesomorphs, endomorphs, and ectomorphs. And I'm meso-endo because endomorphs carry more fat, and I carry more fat in my lower body, so therefore, but my metabolism is like a mesomorph, so therefore I'm meso-endo. For the most part, let's get to understanding what macronutrients are. So protein is broken down into 2 groups. You have non-essential amino acids, and then you have essential amino acids. Essential amino acids are the foods that we consume that helps with muscle recovery and also helps with the hair, skin, and nails and nervous system. Just to give you a few examples of what is in the category of essential amino acids, which are eggs, meats, tofu, and fish. Now I'm going to break down the fats. Fats are broken down into different categories. You have unsaturated fats, saturated fats, and trans fat. You might have heard the difference between good fats and bad fats. Unsaturated fats are your good fats, such as avocados, olive oil, olive, nuts, nut butters such as peanut butter, almond butter, hemp seed butter. Those are your unsaturated fats. Yeah, the other fats such as trans fats and saturated fats, we need to limit our intake of those type of fats itself. Unsaturated fats are the healthy fats and the fats that we need. Just like carbohydrates, fats are also a source of energy that the body needs in order for it to function properly. So that is explained in the fats category. And then I'm going to go into explaining carbohydrates. This is where some people are confused about, okay, what are good carbs and what are bad carbs? Carbohydrates are split into these groups: simple carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, and then you have refined carbohydrates, which I'm going to explain what refined carbohydrates are. But for the most part, simple carbohydrates is milk, honey, sugar, and fruits are simple carbohydrates, just to give you a few examples. And then you have complex carbohydrates, which are beans, whole grains, starchy vegetables. Simple carbohydrates spikes your glucose levels and it instantly gives you a boost of energy. Complex carbohydrates slowly spikes the insulin and gives you, it's a slow digesting carbohydrate, meaning that it slowly gives you that energy throughout the day and doesn't spike your insulin that high. And now I'm going to explain what refined carbohydrates are. Refined carbohydrates are the type of carbohydrates that we need to stay away from: white bread, candy, chocolate, sugar, cakes, cookies, the good stuff. Those are the type of carbohydrates that we want to limit. White rice also falls into that category. I did mention white breads as well. Some people get confused because they're like, oh, you know, carbs are bad, carbs are bad. Not necessarily. Refined carbs, we need to monitor how much we're taking in. And for the most part, what I did with refined carbohydrates, when I was trying to reach my fitness goal, I completely eliminated refined carbohydrates. And the only time I would consume refined carbohydrates was around or during a cheat meal. That's the only time that I would consume refined carbohydrates. But for the most part, whenever I would put a meal plan together, I stay around complex carbohydrates. My simple carbohydrates, because it gives me that insulin spike, I would take early in the morning, simply like my fruits, honey, things of that nature, I would take early in the morning. I find that when my insulin spikes later at night, I have a lot of water retention. Now I'm carrying water weight, and if I don't use that, it's just a whole like makeup of how my body functions. So I try to keep my simple carbohydrates earlier in that day to help me if I'm not having a cheat meal or anything like that. My simple carbohydrates are earlier in that day when I'm trying to lean out and trying to reach my fitness goal. It's important to understand your macronutrient intake. What I like to do, I like to download my Fitness Pal, and I'm not sponsored by them at all. I download my Fitness Pal and I'm able to get a beginner's guideline of how my macros look for the day. So what I like to do is I type in my goals and I type in what exactly I'm trying to do. If I'm trying to lose weight or gain weight, it'll help me and give me those exact numbers of how to reach my fitness goal. And then what they like to do, they break down your macros for you, but they don't tell you that your macros are broken down. They just say, hey, when you start to input, when you begin to input your meals for that day, they'll tell you you're going over your carbohydrates for that day. And they'll say, oh, be careful, you're about to max out on your fats. So the reason why this is imperative, say for instance, if you hit all of your numbers for protein, fats, and carbohydrates for that day, but for some reason you decided to go a little bit over as far as grams of protein for that day, that protein that you went over, it gets stored as fat because you've already hit the caloric intake that was necessary for that day, and then you have excess left over, and that excess, if it isn't used as energy, it is stored as fat. So that's one thing to be mindful of. That's why it's imperative to monitor the macronutrients itself. I have been doing this for the past, I think 3 years now, as far as monitoring my macronutrients. And I notice a difference when I try to attempt to eyeball the measurements and when I actually weigh and measure my food, there's a difference. So I hope I was able to help you to understand the difference between protein, fats, and carbohydrates, and the different type of proteins, carbs, and fats. Please, if you have not done so already, please don't forget to subscribe. Please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button and hit the notifications button. That way you can stay in tune with all of the videos that we're uploading. I hope that I was able to give you a better understanding. And if you were still a little unsure of what macronutrients are, do some more research, read on your own. Thank you very much. I hope I was able to help you, and stay tuned. I'll see you next time. Take care.
She don't know I got the drop on her like, oh, they don't know I got the drop on them like